We continue inshallah ta'ala with the manzuma, with the lines of poetry in the characteristics of the people of Jannah, those who receive the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they receive that ultimate joy in the hereafter. They had certain characteristics in this life, and it's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it's not hidden or something that is vague or not clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so clear by His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala that He sent the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with the perfect way of life, with the complete wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to show the people the path to Jannah very clearly without any ambiguity in it, and the endless path to the hellfire, which is simply any path other than the path of Jannah. So when a person gets to know the path of Jannah and what are the characteristics of the believers, as it's mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then this is what the person should put the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have these characteristics, and constantly asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and repenting to Allah, because no matter what we do, we can never reach this perfect state. We're deficient, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us this way, so that we constantly return to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala with repentance. So getting to know these qualities or these characteristics, the knowledge of that is mandatory, and then we need the help and the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we said before, there is two different things that the human being should understand. Of course, there is what is right and what is wrong, and then there is the desires. Right? Most of the human beings, except those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on, they follow their desires. And the desires would oppose or comes in contrast with the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people either would follow the wahy or their desires. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّمَا يَتَّبِعُونَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. If they do not yastajibu, if they do not respond to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then know with certainty that they are following their desires. So either people would respond to the call from the Prophet ﷺ and follow him, or they would follow their desires. So our job in life is to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, knowing what is right and what is wrong, and that's not it, because we need the help to be able to do what is right. How many times a person knows what is right and what is wrong, but he continues to do what is wrong? So we need the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need the guidance, we need to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and constantly again correcting ourselves with repentance and seeking forgiveness from Allah. So we reached into the 11th line after talking about the love of Allah and the hope for the rewards from Allah, and the fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sabr, rida, to be pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His religion and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with all these different qualities and doing the obligations and the optional acts of worship. Then he says another great quality, which is really the essence of at-tawheed. This quality is the essence of the tawheed, the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, صَحِبُ التَّوَكُّلَ فِي جَمِيعِ أُمُورِهِمْ مَعَ بَذْلِ جَهْدٍ فِي رِضَى الرَّحْمَنِ. Sahibu, right, from Sahaba, Sahiba, meaning they took as a companion with them at all times at-tawakkul. Tawakkul is to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with its different meanings as it will come inshallah ta'ala. So tawakkul is an act of worship, is one of the manazil or one of the levels of al-ubudiyyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a level that does not leave the believers, because if it leaves the believers at any time, that's a problem. So that's why sahibu. When a person is sahib something, that means he's always with it. Right? Like يقال لصاحب القرآن اقرأ وارتقي ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلتك عند آخر آية تقرأها. It will be said to صاحب القرآن. Sahib, either the companion or the owner of something. Right? So when you own something, you're always owning it till it goes away from you. So it will be said to the owner of the Quran, meaning, or the one that had the Quran memorized and acted upon and so on, in the day of judgment, it will be said to him, اقرأ وارتقي ورتل, recite and be elevated and ascend to the higher levels, and not to recite the Quran in the same way that you used to recite in this dunya, because your level is in the last ayah that you recite. That's why some of the ulama, they say the levels of Jannah is equals to the numbers of the ayat of the Quran because of this hadith. So the word sahib, here sahibu at-tawakkul. So they don't make tawakkul once in a while. They don't put their trust in Allah in the proper way, of course, once in a while. No, this is something that is with them at all times. في جميع أمورهم. So he stressed that, meaning it would have been enough if he said sahibu tawakkul. But to make it very clear, في جميع أمورهم, in all of their affairs. جميع, everything. أمورهم, umur, right? Al-amr is the matter. أمورهم, their affairs. In all of their affairs, they have a tawakkul with them. Does not depart from them. In all of their affairs, worldly, hereafter, anything. Without the tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes distorted. And life cannot be a goodly one and a happy one in this life and hereafter without the tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, needs some details. But the rest of the line says, مع بذل جهد في رضا الرحمن. They put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of their affairs, and as if He is stressing that this tawakkul, its place is in the heart. So they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مع بذل جهد, مع بذل, with بذل. بذل is when you give something, giving al-jahd, which is the effort and the struggle that comes with it, sometimes pain or whatever, physical struggle. They would give the struggle and they would do the acts في رضا الرحمن, for the pleasure of Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they do physical acts for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while their hearts is in that state of a tawakkul, putting their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are two things here mentioned in this line. Tawakkul ala Allah, to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-ijtihad fi ta'atillah, as he says, and to strive and to struggle in the obedience of Allah. If one misses one, then the deficiency will be accordingly. So both have to be there. Putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while putting the effort to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At-tawakkul ala Allah, to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the essence of it or the true meaning of it, as he says, al-i'timadu ala Allah والثقة الاعتماد أو تجمع أمرين الاعتماد على الله والثقة بالله. To put your trust, to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to have the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's two things, to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and comes with it the good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are certain levels that a person would go from one level after another to fulfill the tawakkul. First, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes. And that's why it's the essence of the tawheed. If a person knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes, how can he not then put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes, and he worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes, that He is Al-Hayy subhanahu wa ta'ala الذي لا يموت, the one that never dies, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى الْحَيِّ الَّذِي لَا يَمُوت. Put your trust, make tawakkul on the one that is ever living, that never dies. Because the human being would have tawakkul no matter what they do. Even if they claim to be the most rebellious people ever on the face of earth, they put their trust in something. They depend with their hearts on something. Whether it's themselves or another creation of Allah or whatever there is. So this is an act that has to be done from every single human being. So either a person would do it the right way, putting their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they do what is evil, and that is when they put their trust in other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the things that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be dependent on. In basically all of our affairs, but in matters of the deen, in matters of dunya. So knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if a person wants to achieve a tawakkul in the right way, to study, to get to know the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes. As a result of that, that would lead the Muslim after this knowledge to apply what the implications of this. And that is to humble oneself, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have good expectations of Allah, and to be prepared that the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not necessarily at all times give the person the immediate reward or the immediate outcome of it, as this is something that is very clear in the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the believers, they have to put their trust in Allah because they depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the outcome that is unseen to them. They seek the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. So they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever they do now, this will be benefiting for them in the outcome. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the believers that their outcome will be good by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the essence of tawakkul is to depend with one's heart on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A point on the side with this, what is the most important thing to practice the tawakkul on is the purpose of our life, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill our purpose, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. That's why إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ comes right after each other. And then isti'ana, إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ has the meanings of the tawakkul. To put your trust in Allah, to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to establish the ubudiyyah and the ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the most important type of a tawakkul, right? Because we cannot do it on our own. We cannot worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on our efforts only. We need to have the guidance from Allah. We need to depend on our hearts on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also the matters of this dunya, the affairs of the people. Sometimes people, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said a very important point. They, in order to put it together, if they would consume, if it's correct to say that, all of their effort in the tawakkul in something so small, they leave the most important things that they're supposed to practice tawakkul on. For example, someone, his toes is hurting, right? You should put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for its cure, right? But he put all the tawakkul in this, right? In which he can, by having the tawakkul, take in the meal, put some pain relief or something, and he's fine. With the tawakkul, he took the means, with his heart depends on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he would focus so much on this that becomes his concern, because that's what he's having, the immediate pain or whatever. And he neglects, there is salah, and there's dhikr, and there's ibadah, and so on, in which this is what he's supposed to put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's correct to say that it's either or something, this is the most important thing. The time for the salah comes, and a person would waste the time. He would make salah, but he wastes the time thinking that he can do it on his own, without turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trying to fulfill the ibadah in the most perfect way, and so on. So the balance is that the person should put their trust in all of their affairs, hereafter and this dunya, that the most important thing is to fulfill the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And tawakkul can never be in a perfect way unless you, as they say, يَبْرَأْ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ نَفْسِهِ وَحَوْلِهِ وَقُوَّتِهِ. Yabra means that you free yourself, right? You distance yourself from your own power and might and so on. And you put your trust totally on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean again that a person won't take the means. Never. It means that you know that you are nothing but the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills will happen. So a person would say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, and he means it. There's no might and there's no power except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he would, the more the person humble himself, the more he's elevated and the more that he is helped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَثِقُ بِاللَّهِ فِي حُصُولِ مَا يَنْفَعُهُ, and he would put his trust in Allah in getting what benefiting for him and pushing away what harmful to him, while taking all the efforts and making all the efforts and taking all the means to reach whatever he's seeking. So it's a deed done by the heart, with the physical actions taking the means. But the difference between someone that is having the proper tawakkul and someone dreaming or assuming to himself that he's doing that, deceiving himself, the one that has the proper tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would only take the permissible means. He would never take a haram mean, because there are many means to achieve whatever goal you want. Either can be permissible or not permissible. So those who do not put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they want to reach a certain goal, so they would take whatever means is easy for them. And they would find excuses for themselves. Why? Because their goal is the most important thing. To us, as a principle in the deen, الوسائل لها أحكام المقاصد, which means has the same rulings as the goals, right? There's no difference. It's not that the goal justifies the means, right? This is not in Islam. This is in something else. But in Islam, the goal has to be justified, and the means to the goals has to be also justified. So any permissible goal has to have permissible means, otherwise it is not permissible. That means the means to it also is not permissible. So putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means we take the means, but it has to be permissible. And if all means are not available, then a person still would put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will make him reach whatever he needs. So if the only means for him to seek sustenance as he thinks is to earn in the haram way, he would still say no, even if it would lead him to, or he thinks that he will be in big trouble. He won't be able to eat and drink and so on. Allah will provide for him. If he put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and still take the means, he's not going to be lazy or anything. He's taking the means, but the halal ways to do this. So this is with regards to the real meaning of the tawakkul, the putting our trust in Allah and depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our hearts by taking the means. The same thing if a person wants to do a ibadah, he wants to establish the salah in the most perfect way, he wants to fast and so on. He would do it physically to the best of his ability, while in his heart he free himself from any means of abilities whatsoever. He knows that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide him, he won't be guided. So he would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely to help him to establish the ibadah and to do it in the most perfect way. The same thing if a person he's inclined towards committing a sin, right? And he has so much desire to commit the sin, right? Putting our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking the means to stay away from it, while depending with our hearts on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And rarely, if a person has this right, he would continue to fall into the sin. If he would put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the most perfect way. He's desiring something, but he's sincerely turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him away from this. And he's sincere in this. And he would take the physical means in his capacity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help him. And if he fell short and he committed the sin, immediately repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means he needs to be more humble and need to be more depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him away from this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that changes the hearts. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him, he will stay away from it. So he would continue to be there till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help him and purify his heart, as the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma habbib ilayya al-iman wa zayyinhu fi qalbi wa karrih ilayya al-kufra wal fusuqa wal isyan waj'alni min ar-rashidin. Allah, make me love al-iman and adorn it in my heart, and make me hate kufr and fusuq, major sins, and al-isyan, sins, and make me among those who are guided. Right? So what is a better situation than this if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this dua? So if a person is sincere and he has a sin, a weakness in his life, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you hate it, to make you hate the disobedience of Allah. Not that you would hate the act if it's done in a halal way. For example, if a person desires women, for example, which is the nature of the human being, either it's done to be in a halal way or haram way, he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him hate the haram. Not that he would hate the desire itself. No, the haram is to be hated. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would replace it for him by something that is permissible. And the same thing with everything. A person loves the money so much, and it doesn't matter to him whether it comes from halal or haram. So he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to hate money, right, but to hate the haram. And if he hates the haram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him love the halal, and he will be pleased. And he will be happy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for him. So, and putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this desire that you have so much towards something that is haram, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you to have the good expectations of Allah that He is the one that is capable for you to leave it. But having these good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the tawakkul has to come then with this, with the ijtihad. He has to take then the means to be the sign of truthfulness, that he has to stay away from the sins, the company that help him to commit the sin, the things that would make him weak and so on. So this is with the tawakkul and the ijtihad. Of course, there's many details with tawakkul, but this is briefly many verses of the Quran that mention the tawakkul. The one that we heard, tawakkal al-hayy alladhi la yamut, put your trust on the one that is ever living, never dies. Tawakkal ala Allah, innaka ala al-haqqin mubin. put your trust in Allah, indeed you are on the clear truth. This is one of the things that helps the believers to put their trust in Allah. You are on the truth. If people don't know it, if people are deceived while they are in state of forgetfulness, but they eventually will get to know it. And remember Nuh alayhi salam and what he said to his people and what happened, and the same thing for every messenger of Allah. That's why qasas or stories is like one of the soldiers of Allah. Helps the believers to be steadfast. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam steadfast by making the matter so short by the stories of the Prophets. It starts this way, ends this way. And the same thing if you're trapped in the middle of your own story, no, it doesn't continue to be that way. You'll be victorious at the end if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on. Then after that he says, عَبَدُوا الْإِلَهَ عَلَى اعْتِقَادِ حُضُورِهِ فَتَبَوَّأُوا فِي مَنْزِلِ الْإِحْسَانِ. The believers, عَبَدُوا الْإِلَهَ, they worship the one to be worshipped, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, عَلَى اعْتِقَادِ حُضُورِهِ, while having the aqidah, i'tiqad, with the belief, حُضُورِهِ, his presence, which is the level of al-ihsan. The level of al-ihsan, as it's defined by the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith of Jibreel, أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك, that you worship Allah as if you're seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life, then know for sure that He is seeing you. So that's enough for the believers to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this high level. How will be the ibadah will definitely be always perfected. So they worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing him in all of his affairs, whether it's ibadah or not ibadah. That means what? What's the implications of this? That would make him away from, it is said, his heart would not turn to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will have the ultimate focus, of course. A person is standing in front of one of the kings of this world, he would not, while he's standing in front of him, would be thinking about what he's going to eat tonight. Right? He's about to speak or he's about to whatever. He would be focused and nervous and want to make sure that every word comes out right and so on. And this is a human being that eats and drinks and goes to the bathroom and so on. How about the creator of the heavens and the earth, when the believers, they stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day. And they know that He's watching them at all times. And a person would be helped to reach this level with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it will make the believers always turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of their senses, and having the manners in the ibadah, the humbleness and standing in the ibadah in the proper way, and making sure there's no deficiencies in it. And this is one of the highest levels, of course, which is the highest level of the deen. Maratib al-Din thalat. There are 3 levels of the deen: Islam, wal-Iman, wal-Ihsan. The highest level is the level of al-Ihsan. When a person would reach this level where you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if he sees Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he doesn't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sees him. And he continued to be like this, as he says, till it becomes his norm, till it becomes his joy of this life, and he will be given a joy that nobody can ever imagine, or nobody can ever taste it unless they are in this level, right? So this is the level of al-ihsan, the level of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last 2 lines of tonight, inshallah ta'ala, very briefly. So we talked about the tawakkul, right, while putting the effort and the struggle for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the level of al-ihsan. They reach this level with their patience and so on. نصحوا الخليقة في رضا محبوبهم بالعلم والإرشاد والإحسان صاحب الخلائق ذي الجسوم وإنما أرواحهم في منزل فوقاني. Which means نصحوا الخليقة. Another characteristic, all of what is mentioned with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tawakkul and so on, this is between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also part of the qualities, نصحوا الخليقة. نصحوا from al-nasiha. They have the concern towards al-khaliqa, towards the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what nasahu means. It's not advised by words like some people think. As we said before, al-nasiha is more comprehensive than this. Al-nasiha is to have a pure heart towards the one that is the subject of the nasiha. Total sincerity that you want to be a source of help and guidance to whatever you are concerned of. So it starts with the concern in the heart. You see any of the creation of Allah that needs help, needs guidance in disbelief, in kufr, in sins, in whatever, right? So as a result of that, the hearts immediately have that concern. How can that person be saved from whatever path he's taking? And then the person will take the means accordingly. If this is not in the heart and it's just words of the mouth, it's never sincere, it would never reach the heart either. And it doesn't mean that he will be accepted with his nasiha, but that means he had betrayed his Muslim brother. If a Muslim does not have this nasiha in his heart to all Muslims, he's betraying them. And this is, the evidence of that is that the Prophet ﷺ used to take the pledge from the Sahaba when they embrace Islam, وَالنُّصْحِ لِكُلِّ Muslim, that they would have this in their hearts, the concern in their hearts towards every Muslim. And the concern, again, it means that you want to be there for a benefit for them, for their religion, which is the main thing, and the things also of this life that would benefit them. So نَصَحُ الْخَلِيقَةَ فِي رِضَى مَحْبُوبِهِمْ. They don't do that for their own personal glory, but فِي رِضَى مَحْبُوبِهِمْ, for the pleasure of their utmost love, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they want them to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to have this nasiha. With what? بِالْعِلْمِ وَالْإِرْشَادِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. بِالْعِلْم, with knowledge. Al-Irshad is to guidance. Wal-Ihsan is goodness. These are the three things that the elements of a nasiha. Al-Ilm. That what is the thing that people are lacking for them to be obedient to Allah is ilm. Then they are left on their own. They need to apply the ilm, they need to apply the knowledge. So the nasiha first comes with matters of knowledge. How can we bestow this favor? By conveying this message, the truth, in the most gentle way, the most perfect way, so that people will take it. Right? And this is the nasiha. And that's why this is the best level of deed that can be ever done after prophethood, is to spread the ilm. This is what the human beings are in need of. The ilm of how to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to save themselves from the hellfire. And always, if a person wants to make it easy for himself to know and to be more focused, look at the end of one's journey. Right? It's Jannah or the hellfire. This is the end of all things. So that's what really matters. Right? Anything else, it doesn't matter, as long as whatever would make the person reach his final destination. So they have the nasiha, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with ilm, with knowledge and irshad and guidance, to guide them with the ilm, because anybody can claim anything. That's why we should not praise oneself. A person should not say, this is what is right and this is what is wrong. All human beings, they say that. Nobody claims ignorance. Nobody will say, I'm ignorant. Right? Everybody claims that they know anything, everything. Right? Everything they have an opinion in, whether it's politics or money-wise or anything. Right? And everybody says, everybody attack everyone else. Right? If they're not saying what they're saying, they will attack them and put them down because they're not in the level of thinking. Everybody's like this, except those who have fairness and those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten them with the wahy. What is the criteria that people base what is right and what is wrong? Who said that what you say, everything is relative, right? Who said that what you're saying is correct? If you have wahy, his wahy has been revealed to you, wahy is finished after the Prophet ﷺ. There's no more wahy after the Prophet ﷺ. So the ultimate truth is the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that is not wahy, right? Don't make it mandatory for people to adopt what you're saying if it's not wahy. So that means what we need to learn is the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way it was done and applied and understood in the times of the originations of Islam. And this is what we need to have the nasiha towards people, and you know for sure that this is what is right. Other than that, who would make you that sure that this is really what they need? Some people think, for example, generations to come here, they need to be well educated, to be all in the best colleges ever. It's a good thing, no problem, yes. But who said that this will be the good thing for them? Right? This is wahy. You can say, but this is what the science, but this is what the means of the people are. Those who have education, they, and they go to colleges and they have high level of education, by the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, they're well off. Well off in what? They have houses and cars and they eat and drink, and then what? That's it, that's the ultimate goal. And then we call them successful. This is not what success is. This is only success. It can be only called success if it's with the foundation of the deen. If they're doing that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they're not compromising the deen, and the deen is the most important thing, and that comes with it, mashallah, this is great. But this is not the goal, and then the deen becomes one of the core, one of the things that a person sees some blessings from it. Oh, he's mashallah, he's religious and everything, but the most important thing is that he is well off financially or in a status or whatever there is, and the deen is something that is helping this. No, it's the other way around. The deen is the most important thing, and it does not belittle anything of physical things that people need, never. But what is the thing that drives people and make them sit and stand and go to college and learn and work and everything is the deen of Islam. It would make them even work harder at all levels, but in the proper way, the right way, the halal way, the things that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to have the proper vision, right, with the knowledge of al-wahy, and this is what we need to really focus on. Anything else, it depends on the wahy. If it's with the wahy, mashallah, it adorns it, it makes it beautiful. Without the wahy, there's no value to it whatsoever. So bil-ilm wal-irshad wal-ihsan, and to be kind and do good to others. This is the nasiha. To do whatever good there is, whether it's things physically in this life or things, matters of the deen and the hereafter. And you don't have to be perfect in doing good in all levels. You can focus on one thing as much as a person can. Someone has money, for example. Then he should witness the wisdom of Allah. He's given this for a reason. So he would use that ni'mah, favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help people with his money. Someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the ability to learn. So he should learn so that he can benefit people by teaching them. Some people, whatever a person has physical strength, he can help people with his strength, right? To the extent of which, as the Prophet ﷺ said, when you give from your dalu, from a bucket, right? You put from your bucket of water to your brother, this is a good deed. You carry something for him, that he is on his camel or in his car, and you help him to carry something in his car, right? This is a good deed. Mentioned in the hadith, wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this is a good deed that you will do. Not everybody can do this. So you should witness, oh, Allah give me strength, physical strength. So how can I help others? It doesn't mean that he will neglect his family, for example, and he's always helping others. We have to balance things and see the rights of everyone in our life, and the obligations comes first and so on. But to witness what has been given to us. After we take the means and we struggle in all levels, right? People struggle, and some people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide for them wealth, some people Allah provide for them health, some people provide for them knowledge. But the struggle from everyone in all levels to see what is the area that we can excel more, then helping others with this, with the foundation which is the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do. We're all the same. All Muslims are supposed to establish the salah, pay the zakat, all the obligations, and being away from haram. This is the minimum requirement. Everybody's like this. Then the optional acts of worship. Who would excel in what? This is according to one's ability, and a person has to really understand what he is good at, right? In things that he will benefit himself, benefit others in matters of the deen, and so on. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the last line, وَصَاحِبُ الْخَلَائِقَ بِالْجُسُومِ وَإِنَّمَا أَوَاهُمْ فِي مَنْزِلٍ فَوْقَانِ. Very briefly, they صَاحِبُ again, they are with the khalaiq, they are with the creation of Allah, بِالْجُسُومِ, by their bodies, physically. They are present in this life. They have families, they have neighbors, they have people that they pray with, people that they work with. So they are with them physically. But in reality, أَرْوَاحُهُمْ, their souls, فِي مَنْزِلٍ فَوْقَانِ, in a level or in a place, فَوْقَانِ فَوْق, meaning above. That means their souls is above, is where the angels are, where the purity is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the one that have the perfect love from them, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So their souls is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grateful to Him, humbling themselves to Him, in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would find them in state of gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in other times they witness the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the wisdom of Allah, and they seek the pleasure of Allah in all of their affairs, and they're with people physically, but with their souls, they are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the righteous ones. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among these people. وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وصحبه